Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. So, we are bringing a new dish to the table, and this is Women's Stories. So, what we've been feeling is that perhaps we need to curate a safe space where, as women, we can explore all the facets of our womanhood and femininity and the diverseness that comes with being a woman. Um, I'm Joy. Co-hosting with me is Wazi.
Yes, my name is Wadzanai Chiuriri, also known as the Black Pearl, and I'm so excited to be here with these amazing women from seriously diverse backgrounds. So today, the question that we're actually going to be dealing with is the question of whether we actually need spaces like these. So what does it mean to be a woman for each and everyone that's here? Because I think it means something slightly different, apart from our biology, which is kind of similar. But so the conversation is really going to be around why do we constantly need spaces that are specific for women? What is it that each woman that came here today was thinking about? What is it that made them say yes? So I'm just going to like throw it right through to all the women that are here and randomly ask you, why did you say yes to the call that came from one of the women that's sitting here amongst us today?
My name is Rutendo Bako, better known as Shonga, and I'm of the Nyati clan. And I work with an organization called Zimbanete Arts and Culture Interaction, and where we look at spaces and opening up spaces. And one of the spaces that we talk about and one of the spaces that we concentrate on is Mapiwa. Mapiwa being the dari, the court for women. This is where children were reared, where girls were taught how to go about their business, how to become a woman, and so on. So when I heard about this platform, I jumped onto it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a part of this. Because it's something that we don't have in our communities today. And because of relations that have been distanced, now more so because of social distancing, it's becoming crazy in this world. So having this platform is critical for us women to talk, to discuss, to help each other, to lift each other, and
Sure, I'll just quickly jump in there. This Mapiwa thing you're talking about, is it the same kind of
Please
concept?
don't forget to introduce yourself for our viewers. Sorry.
Okay. Hard.
No, keep rolling.
Okay, so my name is Beatrice, and I'm interested in knowing if this concept of Mapiwa that you're talking about is almost similar to concepts like Nanga, because in back then I understand there were spaces where girls like Nanga girls would have their special room where they sleep in there, the whole girls from that household, aunties would come in there to talk about issues, menstruation, boyfriends and whatnot. Is this almost a similar concept?
It is. I think Ananga is an extension of Mapiwa because Mapiwa was the kitchen where a child was born. So you're born into Mapiwa. You're right there, the light is dim enough, it's not too shouting, you're not traumatized. And issues such as trauma are something that we're living with every day. So Mapiwa is goes on further to become Nanga where the young girls talk and so on. So I think it is pretty much an extension of that.
Okay, so to answer to Wadzi, I think we definitely need these spaces because there's a lot of shrinking of the civic space, of the political space. We've seen increased militarization of the state. Now, like Kudara, you would go to China Chemadzimai, and I feel spaces like this are very important, say for mental health. Madzimai would go to China Chemadzimai and have fun, besides and I would see guys in pubs, after I work. If you look my pubs, they hang out, they create my business ideas, and whatnot. But for a woman in the Zimbabwean context, most of the times you can't go back to you have to go home and perform other duties that are expected of you. So you rarely get spaces to connect for business. You rarely get spaces to just, have a healthy mental health state. So
yes, I want to concur with Bia. I'm Naomi. I think China is a place where women get to get an education about how they're supposed to run their homes, how to run their husbands, and not necessarily running themselves. So I believe that spaces like this are very important for us, just so that we are also able to
context.
So
Other.
I feel
Just
like I
to
want to
be.
agree or disagree, but what is China? Because I actually am not clear on China. I'm learning things here.
Right, right.
And what's China? I got what Mapiwa is, so thank you for that. But what's really China?
And also, just before we go any further with that, there is something quite critical that I left out. We also looking quite specifically at what it is to be an African woman. So
Yeah.
we're exploring our womanhood within the context of being an African woman and maintaining that identity
Yeah.
of still being African, because we're very proud of being African.
Oh, yeah.
And
We are.
you know, of course, there are lots of avenues about it. Yeah. So just going back to China.
Right. I'm not. I think you can help me about China. I'm not very well versed about China, but I would like to believe, and I stand to be corrected, that other than just being prayerful and everything, you're also taught the things that makes you a woman, a mother, the being that recreates beings that are going to be, for example, fathers of tomorrow, mothers of tomorrow. And I think that's where you find that when women fail in those areas where you become this mother and you have got a bad child, or you've got a bad wife, you've got a bad husband, it is the woman who is blamed. So I believe that in the China, that's where people are being taught all these things to become the ideal parent, just so that your product is going to be something people can talk about and want to emulate, and they'll yemura you through what you've produced.
So when you're talking about China, you're talking about the church.
Yes, exactly. That's why I threw it to her.
Very much.
And I'm quite Catholic at it. But yeah, rebelliously so, I suppose.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Erica Kodakwashi Matongo. I'm a life coach and I am a Christian. You were talking about the issue of China. I attend China as a woman, and for me, basically, when I got married when I was young, you know, when you're young, you're naive, you don't understand a lot of things about marriage. It's a place where I found, because most of the people who I was with in the group, Yamurkuti China, there were women that were older than me. Obviously, they were wiser. They had gone through a lot of different experiences. So I did actually gain a lot of wisdom from them. And as you mature, you tend to now realize what you take in, because, for instance, if you're talking of marriage, you know, situations differ. So it's what you take in, what applies with where you are at. And the Word of God for me, when I read it personally, that's what comes to me first. It's not always what my Mingi says to me. And that's what's, it has, really helped me. It's not a place where we're just dominated and told this is how you have to operate. No.
Okay, I've got a different perspective to that. My name is Junior, or you can call me Mambo Kads. For me, I've had experience of China. In the times I do go to China, but I think I would love to have a space like this, to have a space of diverse women coming together and talk through things out. I've realized, and I must say, and I'm so sorry to say, the China women, they are so judgmental. They are structured in their way. And if you want to deviate from them, you are labeled. You are given this. But life is diverse. We are so dynamic. We are so different. Okay, fine. Kuchina, I tell you, if I ndikafirwa nemurume kana ndiri mudzimai wechina ndinonzimira ndigarire Jesu. I'm not allowed to date because pamwe ndinonzimira ndigarire Jesu. But no, I don't want to garira Jesu. I want a boyfriend. I'm telling you. But if ndiri mukadzi kana ndiri kuchina ndiri mukadzi wechidiki ndafirwa and I find to have a boyfriend.
So you don't necessarily have to observe a mourning period. You mean you're basically mourning for...
No, for me,
Right.
there's no timeline.
Right.
Why am I given a timeline? The husband is given a timeline.
Right.
The husband, I can die today and my husband can dead tomorrow. Why should I be given a timeline as a woman?
So in other words, Mambokads, you are saying that spaces like this are very important for us.
Yes.
Because we need to let out our minds. We need to think again and revisit who we are.
Yeah.
But why
before
can't
we
do
can
it? Why
actually
can't we-
conform
Why can't we do
to
it
what
within
everything
the China
else.
space?
No, we can't.
I've never been to a China, but what
Same
I know
here.
about
I don't
it
know about
is
China.
It's a toxic space, And I'm actually happy to learn from you that you're saying, you know, you got in there, Uri, young, and you got
young
you know,
bride.
useful information that helped you, and you linked that to the Word of God. So, yeah, it's just quite eye-opening, because my experiences of what I know of China is it's a toxic space where you come in there, like Junior is saying, you're supposed to behave.
You wear a uniform.
Yeah.
I tell you, before you go.
So if we can just have one person at a time, Junior, and then we're going to have Rutendo. Let's keep it flowing nicely.
For me, I must say, I've also I had that experience. I was into China when I was 20, and by 21, I was wearing the uniform. And when I look back, I'm sorry to say, I don't envy those days. I thought I was suppressed. I thought I wasn't being myself.
You don't need to be sorry.
Well, yeah, I don't need to be sorry, because I thought I was being told to behave in a certain way, because somebody has done it before. No, I believe people are so different. People are so dynamic. If I want to behave this way, let it be.
I have a quick question. Can I just...
Are you the same? Like, are you saying that, let's say you work somewhere, I'm assuming you have a job. Do all the women in your organization agree about everything?
No, we don't.
So how do you expect women in a China group to agree about everything? If you are in a different group, and we're here, a group of women, and we don't agree about everything. Where did your expectation about China, and China is just, I think right now has become a representation of a whole church, which I think personally is unfair, because I've never been to China.
I don't believe it's a presentation.
I mean, in this context, I think I'm getting the feeling that it is, because I know Jesus. I've never been to China, and I'm Christian, and I'm not necessarily churchy, you know. So, where did you draw your line and your conclusion, and decide that China is the thing that decided?
But before what Junior can respond to what his question, please may we just I feel it's only fair that you respond. Thank you. You've now been told.
Yeah, and we're gonna have Rutendo as well.
Yeah. So just to recap, okay, so we've got some thoughts around China being a toxic space, China being a space where women feel suppressed and not necessarily supported.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I believe whatever organization or whatever group, just like the way we came here, we agreed. When I got the call, do you want to come? I made up my mind as an adult. Yes, I want to go. I was curious, and here I am. You are not forced to join China. You are not forced to join the army. You are not forced to join whatever group of. But with whatever group you go into, there's going to be a whole lot of rules and regulations on how you have to do in order to get along. And it's up to you. Some people will feel you were suppressed, but basically for me, in our group, the groups that I have been in, probably have been privileged. I've never felt suppressed. I've had an open voice. I've gone against what they say are rules, and I say to them, the ones that are older than me, I'll say, oh, maybe it's because you're older than me, but this I'm not going to do. But I've never felt anybody say, oh, because you're not doing this, we're chucking you out. I've probably gone into it with a different mindset in that I was going into it to learn from the people that were wiser than me. And that's exactly what I got. So,
I just also feel, though, sorry to interrupt, I mean, I know that I'm like the hostess, and clearly I'm just taking over, my apologies. But, you know, we've brought up China, and I feel China is probably a representation of our society as black women.
Yeah.
I find that our spaces as African women, you do not have to be in church. You can just be within your familial context. Our spaces generally lend themselves to toxicity until you break out, and then you know, and then you begin to find your own way. But that judgmental attitude is everywhere.
Is everywhere.
So she raised something. Sorry, what's it? She raised something about getting into the China space. You know that you're not forced to get into the space, but I feel like there's societal expectations on women and what we should do, how we should dress. You know, even now when this video comes out, they'll be like, "Oh, what were you wearing?" So sometimes it's not like you dragged, into the space, like physically dragged into the space, but probably you were married, because I understand
No, not necessarily. They're actually different guilds.
Okay,
They're
alright.
different guilds.
Okay, so
Depends on the church. I think.
you were
Depends on the church, yeah.
Depending.
I
Okay.
think we're probably talking about the 5 main churches, aren't we?
No, but we can't dwell on the church per se.
Yeah.
Because here we're talking about the space of a woman.
Yeah.
As me here.
And I think
Like,
maybe
I need
China
space.
is the space,
Without the China,
only one
but
that
I
we
need
know
space.
of.
yeah,
For
and I
me,
was still talking.
I need to be talking about me,
talking.
not
Sorry,
about
sorry.
the
I'm
church.
just gonna play host here and say Rutendo.
Thank
to
you.
speak after
I was
me.
just
Not just sorry, because I want to bring in a slightly different perspective to all this that you're
Perfect,
saying.
which
So
is why
it's
we're
good that
here,
they go
which
on.
is
Maybe
why we're
Beatrice
here.
can finish, then Rutendo can come in.
Yeah, so I was talking about sometimes you can, if you don't know better, you can't
Yeah.
do any better.
True.
You see? So maybe from your upbringing, maybe you grew up in a Christian family, and that was the way of doing things. So you don't necessarily feel like you were coerced into this space. But I know some women who get into that space because it's an expectation of society. Because you're married, you're supposed to be maive, duku, and whatnot, bachi, or duku, whatever it is. So I understand women like Junior, when they feel suffocated, I would really get suffocated if I were to get into that space. But I also understand the diversity that we have, because you had a different approach to it. You got in there to learn. You had an agenda, you had your goal to say, oh, I want to learn from the older women and whatnot. Yeah, but for some it was just an expectation that you're married, you need to get into China.
get
and
into
this
it.
is how we do things here.
It's
No,
so
fana
true.
kuita maive badge.
Whilst you're
But
at the
I
same
just
thing, sorry to cut you off. I have had experiences of women who are much, much older than me who just decided not to go into China. And they've got their own reasons. And I have really respected them as well, because I also thought you're not forced to just because now you're married. I mean, they're married, they've got grandchildren. And for the longest time, just as your uniform duku, they would come without the required duku at a funeral. Sometimes it depends, Kuti. The woman who died, was she in China? If she was in China, then we're all required to wear the uniform. But you'd have the 1 or 2 people that for the longest time, and I've always also admired them and respected their decisions. For me, that was my decision. For them, if that's their decision, I think that's why the space is here. It's for us to accept each other as we are, and not to judge and say,
Yeah.
you are this. And if we can do that as women, then it's empowering.
Sorry, Rutendo, before anybody takes your spot.
Yes.
Please, now.
No manners here, Rutendo. No manners.
It's really not about manners per
No,
se.
I'm just saying.
But you guys were interrogating this whole China Chamadzmai, and it's in most churches. It's a space for women. It is. And when you were saying that you were sort of disappointed, to say the least, in what you found there, a lot of Africans, and this is for both men and women, we live two realities: the Western reality and the African reality. And I'm bringing in the cultural perspective. We have our cultures. In our culture, we used to have what we call kuroba kuba. And this was a ceremony that was done at least after a certain period when people have mourned adequately. And I never attended.
But
the
what is
kuroba kuba.
adequate? Adequate is for the woman, not for the man.
No, just for the family. This was
Just for the
generally
family.
for the
Kuroba
whole
kuba is for the
family. Because
family.
there's the mother, there's the father, and so on. And so I never attended it. But in my researches, what I found is that one of the activities that took place in Kuroba Kuba was that there was a dare court that was set with the entire family. And this was the time when the wife was asked, Kuti, murukuda kugarwa na karindi. Kugarwa na ka was our practice that you would still be within the family and be assigned either a male, which is murume, to be your husband, perhaps you wanted to have more children, or the sister to your husband, which was mkazi, so that she can be the father figure to your children, the one who would represent you and your children in family gatherings and the like.
There's
And
a
the
hot
wife-
guy in the family?
Sorry?
There's a hot guy in the
I'll
family.
go for him.
Go for it.
I don't know. That Kuba Bambik will be mine.
And so,
I don't know.
and so as a woman, you were given an option if you wanted one of those. The third option was that you'd say, I'm too young, I want to go back to my parents' house. And then you were free to have boyfriend. And
But
the whole
still,
family
let
would
me
not
just
have a
interject
Hang
on
on,
that
Naomi.
one. On that one.
Naomi,
Sorry,
But you
can
could
I finish?
also
Can I
allow
finish?
yourself
Naomi,
to give your
Naomi,
son.
Naomi, I'm gonna switch your mic off.
All right, thank you.
We've kept on holding on for so long.
All right.
Fine.
Fine. It's so doing. You know, a woman was given this option, and the whole family would respect it because right papa out in the open, you know, everyone would know this is your choice. So a lot of women would come kuchina, but they still have this African. So kuchina, they'll do what is expected kuchina. But they know kuchima decisions anguka. We're going to do them in our homestead. We're going to have other decisions. So some were content. I don't know if you had those two realities as you were in the China.
I have to say, this is actually getting quite heated and quite exciting, although we do actually need to wrap it up for today. And I would love it, don't you think, Wazi, if maybe we could just keep it hanging, the idea of being an African woman, but living two different realities, and in somehow trying to find yourself in the middle there, and perhaps that's...
Absolutely. And I think that we would love to hear from our viewers what they think. I know it was like chaos up in here, but the idea is to actually have that freedom, because we have so many spaces that are controlled and individuals who don't want to be controlled. So this is the space where individuals can come out and say exactly what they think, how they think it. And we want to hear what you think about the two spaces that came up as we were discussing why we have this space. So clearly there's conflict between China and something else in the middle that we want to talk about.
The middle is this space. Yes. Yeah. So there's
So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next week.
There's being a good holy woman, and then there's this mishmash here. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on Women's Stories, and we'll be back soon, and we'll be picking it right up from there. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.